Pranam to you all. Welcome to our Friday night healing service. We offer this next 15 minutes as an opportunity to practice our meditation in a spirit of preparing the way, opening, moving beyond the activity and the busyness, all that we have to do in our lives. And so I invite us all to practice whatever form of meditation that inspires us, touches our hearts most deeply, most sweetly. And then at the end of this pre-meditation, the pre-workshop optional meditation, we'll have a chime which will indicate our time to begin the workshop. Pranam to you all. Welcome with all my heart. We're going to begin tonight with a 15-minute silent meditation. And for this meditation, I invite us all to practice in the following way. As we breathe in, imagine receiving the gift of life. And then at the culmination of the in-breath, please pause just for a moment, whatever's comfortable, without forcing your breath, your breathing. And resting in that pause, in the experience of having fully received life. And then as we exhale, imagine sharing your love with the world, expressing that forth, breathing that forth. And then on the culmination of the out-breath, again, pause briefly, resting in the space of having shared yourself fully with the world. And then repeating on the in-breath, breathing in, conscious of receiving the gift of life. Pausing briefly, resting in the experience of having fully received life. And then on the out-breath, expressing completely fully, sharing your love, your life, everything with the world. And then pausing again to rest in the experience, the feeling of having shared your love and that having been received by the world. So we'll do this for 15 minutes and we'll begin with 3 chimes of the bell to begin, and we will end with a single chime of the bell. receiving and giving, giving and receiving, until there is no longer a giver, no longer a receiver, but simply the ongoing, eternal flowing of love. May absolute peace pervade the whole universe. Welcome everybody to our Friday night workshop on the Buddha's teachings on dana, or giving. I'll start with a few housekeeping items, some announcements. If at any time during our time together tonight, if you have a question that you would like to ask, pardon. There are a couple of ways that you can ask that question, share that question. If you move your cursor down to the bottom of your screen, there's a spot there where you have a little, the word chat and a little thought bubble. If you go into there, you can type a message to the host and a question to the host, and they'll let me know later when we have time for that. They'll share your question with me. Another option is there's the participants icon, and if you click on that, there's a little icon of a hand, and you can click on that, and it says raise your hand. And so we'll keep an eye out, and during the time for questions, we will give you an opportunity to ask your question. At the end of our session tonight, we will have we'll put on a slide at the conclusion of our final meditation. And there will be a link for you if you would like to make a financial contribution to Awake Yoga Meditation, or to Swami Nityananda. We invite you to do that to support our ongoing offering of the teaching. We'll keep that slide up for about 5 minutes after the completion of our meditation. Our Awake Yoga Meditation services, we offer, in addition to Friday night services, we offer a meditation on Sunday mornings at 11. And then each Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., we offer what we call darshan meditation, an opportunity to meditate together. Sometimes we offer guided meditation, sometimes silent meditation. All of this information is available for you. You don't have to remember any of it. It's available at awakeyogameditation.org, our website. And for those of you, if you're calling in or you're viewing this on Facebook or on YouTube, if you would like to make a financial offering, you can go to that website, and you'll find there a link to make a contribution. And thank you with all our hearts for your sharing your resources with us. And I also thank you for your presence here tonight. You are always welcome. And I personally take it as a sacred trust that you are offering your time, your attention, your presence. And I receive that as a gift. Thank you. So this workshop is on the Buddha's teachings on dana. I think more accurately, this workshop is the fruit of my own personal meditations on the teachings, on the Buddha's teachings, the teachings of dana, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, as well as my meditations and reflections on many other spiritual religious traditions that I've had the blessing of engaging with, of reflecting on. I say that in a kind of a truth in advertising kind of way. When I look honestly, it's hard for me to distinguish between where the Buddha Dhamma begins or ends and the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, the Tao Te Ching, the Upanishads, the teachings of the New Testament and the Old Testament. They're all in there together, and so I certainly strive to share with you all the Buddhist teachings as they're reflected in the tradition I'm most familiar with, which is the Theravadan tradition. But really, most importantly, I share these and all of my particular insights so that you may have access to the truth that all of those teachings point to, so that you may know them for yourself. So tonight's, so in our workshop, I created a stated purpose of our workshop is to become aware of and free ourselves from many notions and beliefs about giving which cause suffering in our lives, and to recover an expansive sense of possibility, peacefulness, joy for our lives. Tonight, we're going to focus on the perfection of giving as communicated as shared in the bodhisattva ideal. And we'll also explore the notion of seeing, experiencing all of life as a gift. So the bodhisattva ideal. That ideal existed in the oldest schools of Buddhism, but it was, I think, it's fair to say that it was really developed and expanded upon in the Mahayana tradition. There's a distinction drawn, and I think this is a distinction drawn by Mahayanists, that the Theravadan tradition, which is sometimes referred to as Hinayana, yana meaning vehicle, hina meaning lesser, so the teachings of the lesser vehicle, and the ideal in the teachings of Theravada or Hinayana is that of the Arahant, of the fully realized being, the awakened being, which is an individual effort and an individual realization. The Mahayana tradition focuses more on the ideal of the bodhisattva, which is a realized being. And in the cosmology of Buddhism, an illumined being, a Buddha, an Arahant, when fully enlightened, they no longer are reborn in the world of name and form. They're no longer incarnated. So that is the ideal of the Arahant, is to move from this plane of existence, never to be reborn again. The bodhisattva, on the other hand, takes on and makes a promise to life that they forego their final passing out of existence, out of the rounds of rebirth, and they volunteer to be reborn forever and ever and ever until all sentient beings have passed into that state of realization, that state of no longer being reborn. So it's an extraordinary to forego one's own enlightenment. I encountered the bodhisattva ideal as a young student. And there, in the Pali canon, and as well as in the Mahayana tradition, the Buddha, before his enlightenment, he was reborn hundreds, thousands, millions of times, all of which resulted in his final birth, during which he fully realized the truth and then shared that truth through his teachings so that others may have the opportunity to know that for themselves. So in all those previous rebirths, he is referred to as a bodhisattva. So one way you could think of the idea of a bodhisattva in that context is one who is on the path to full realization, full awakening. If we consider that all beings will return to their true nature, when we leave this earthly existence, we return to our true nature. During this earthly existence, it is possible for us to awaken to, realize, to fully know for ourselves our true nature while in this life. That's what the Buddha did. And the Buddha offers his teachings for all beings that they may know that reality, that true nature, that eternal nature, that not separate self, freeing ourselves from the wheel of suffering, of repetitiveness, the cycles of violence, of hatred, delusion, greed, freeing ourselves while in this life. Given that we will all return to our true nature, we can't not. Otherwise, it wouldn't be our true nature. So we are all bodhisattvas. Now, there is a distinction, a wonderful distinction to be known, to be recognized. Just as it is possible for us to know our true nature while in embodiment. And in my understanding, that's what all the illumined beings, all teachers of truth, of love, are offering to us, that we may know that in this lifetime, during our lifetime. So if we're all on our way to that, we are all bodhisattvas. One of the beautiful aspects of that promise that the bodhisattva makes is that the bodhisattva, as does life, continues to offer the teachings offer the way, offer the path. With absolute patience, with absolute compassion, certainly with wisdom and understanding. So that's where we're all headed. And whether we fulfill and fully awaken to that reality in this lifetime or not, the teachings, the way, and the truth. The truth is offered to us. And the truth is always the truth. It always will be, it always has been, it is. And so we can either go through this life aware of, in the realization of, living our lives in alignment with, true to, harmonious with, or not. The truth is never withheld. The truth of life, the truth of our being is never withheld from us. That would be impossible. So the bodhisattva ideal. So I'd like to share a story from my life. And there are a couple of aspects of it that I'm very excited to share with you. So in June of 1963, the Civil War in Vietnam was raging. And the president of Vietnam was putting restrictions, legally, politically, putting restrictions on the Buddhist monks for how they could practice their tradition, their faith. And there were riots, there were monks marching in the streets, there were protests, and there was violence against these by the police, the state. There was a Mahayana Buddhist monk. His name was Taekwondo. And he practiced self-immolation in protest of this political action against the monks. So I was a little boy, I was 8 years old. I saw this. Perhaps some of you saw that, remember that. And let's just say it made a deep impression. It caught my attention. It raised a lot of questions. I often, later in life, wondered what was at the root of my own wonder and awe and appreciation and curiosity for the teachings of the Buddha. What's an interesting element of this is that it wasn't until many years later in meditation, it occurred to me that this witnessing that I had experienced, that impact that it had on me, that I discovered I think the depth and certainly more of the fullness of how that influenced me. I, I, I really wanted to know how is this possible? What does all of this mean? That this human being would commit this act. In the canonical literature, there are hundreds and hundreds of tales of the Buddha in his previous lives as a bodhisattva. They're called the Jataka tales. One after another, after another, after another, after another of stories. And I think many of these were folk stories that existed in the culture of northeastern India at the time. And they got brought in and incorporated into the Buddha's teachings. But these very poignant tales are of the Buddha in his previous lives, this bodhisattva, this being, who with absolute love and selflessness gave himself consciously, willingly. Many, if not most of these tales, the Buddha as a bodhisattva is in the form of an animal. Oftentimes sacrificing himself, giving of his body in loving service to those in need, unquestionably. So this teaching of the bodhisattva ideal, the perfection of giving, there are quite a few writings about it in the canonical texts. And there are commentaries on these, and they outline what it means to give selflessly, give completely of oneself. We broached on a couple of those in the previous sessions of the workshop. Some of the more, what we could say, extreme teachings are that the bodhisattva, this ideal being, will give of him or herself, of her eyes, her limbs, his body, his organs, in service and loving service and selflessness for the well-being of another. So there's an element of this that I think is really, really helpful. From the point of view of I am separate from you, I am a separate self. We are not one. So from the point of view, which is I think it's safe to say is kind of the mass state of consciousness in our world, is one of separation, one of apartness, the other. So from that point of view, the very notion of sacrificing one's body, if we live in a survivalist mode of reality, of I'm going to do absolutely everything to survive, then this whole teaching is mad. It's ridiculous. So if you have an existing consciousness of separation, of otherness, of two-ness, of apartness, of competition, of survival. So if you have that as your foundation, as your ground of being, then to superimpose down on that this notion of surrendering, giving up, sacrificing one's own body, one's eyes, one's sensory organs, one's my limbs, my very life. I mean, that's nuts. From the point of view of love, if we are so steeped in our love for one another, I know that there are degrees, okay, I recognize that there are degrees of realization, there are degrees of being, established in loving kindness, in love, in selflessness, in service. And but when love's at play, at its finest, purest, most lovely expression in us and through us as human beings, then the question doesn't arise. Think of the love of a mother or a father or their child. Whatever it's going to be, whatever it's going to take, you got it. So I just that distinction of trying to understand a teaching such as the bodhisattva ideal, of giving of ourselves so fully and completely, may feel foreign, may feel nonsensical. And what we're from the point of view of love, it is a natural expression. So from that place of love, of connection, how many people, and there are many, many bodhisattvas amongst us. We may call them heroes, frontline workers. Not just in this time of the coronavirus, but throughout time, people who naturally run into the burning building. Nobody's asking them to. You can't, it's their job, yes, but really at a much, much deeper level, that is something that comes naturally from within. It can't be legislated, it can't be dictated, it can't be superimposed. It becomes rigid and contrived, forced, not natural. So what I've come to appreciate is that, and one way of getting at this is, if everything is vibration, all of that vibration is, there's infinite variety of vibrations. And, in a way, you could say there's a spectrum from the dense, the gross, to the subtle and the more subtle and the more subtle. So in that spectrum, I think it's easy to see that selfishness is towards the end of separateness, of unawareness, of oneness, of density, of solidity, the vibration of selflessness, of selfless service, of absolute unconditioned love is moving to the other end of that spectrum. All of those have validity. So this is not about judging or placing one in some false hierarchy of one is well, better than another. How they feel in our human experience is obviously there's a very, very, very big difference between how we feel when we feel apart, disconnected, alone, separate, cut off, and when we feel absolutely in the experience of oneness, connection, a unitive state of consciousness. So going back to this some of the things that I've offered in the earlier sessions of this workshop has to do with what it is that we would love to have be our full expression of ourselves in this life. This opportunity is for us to express ourselves fully. And there's another aspect of that giving, that offering, and that is having life or another being to receive one another's gift, your gift, my gift. We offer our love without expectation, ultimately, ideally, without seeking anything in return. And at some point, we can just be counted on to offer love. Again, without expectation, not looking for anything. That is what I would say is our true nature. The opportunity as human beings is for us to discover that within ourselves and then to live out of that naturally, so that we offer ourselves in service, not because we have to, not because anybody's keeping track or keeping score or for any reason, not trying to get anything. So in that, there is a wonderful opportunity for all of us is to receive, to be a receiver. To fully receive another's offering, another's gift. So I share this in the context of this Mahayana Buddhist monk in 1963 giving his life what it means to really fully receive that gift. He didn't do it so that, this is my, based on my understanding, I'm supposing, I can't know his state of consciousness. I can know how it touched me and impacted me and influenced me. And so, just given my nature, I extrapolated. So this realized being, this being of so much love, who would give his life so that others may make a statement, so that others may have life fully. It's pretty easy to make the jump to Yeshua, who gave his life freely, fully, when asked, and to really receive the fullness of his love. In my particular understanding, it isn't that love that master shared with us. It's not restricted, limited to him. That there have been, will be truly innumerable beings who have, do, and will offer their love to all of us so that we may know that for ourselves. So I explore what it means to fully receive that gift. I can say for myself that I have to be a completely other person than who the person is that I am afraid I am, or who I think I am. I think there's the story of the Grinch, had to grow his heart many times bigger to hold the love. And so there is an infinite and an eternal, as I see it, offering from life and from human beings, countless human beings, most of whom will never know their name. There's no fanfare, there's no notoriety. They're not doing it for that, and I would say neither did those beings who we know well about. They weren't doing it for that. They were doing it, why? Because it was the natural expression of their hearts, their sharing with the world. So the part of the topic for tonight is the perfection of giving. As I spent time with that, I considered the giving of perfection. And what that means. the bodhisattva, the promise of the bodhisattva is to offer the path, the teachings, offer awakening, offer offer all of that to us that we may realize the truth that these teachings are pointing to beyond words, beyond the ideas, but the full realization, the awakening to that love for ourselves. So part of the in the teachings on dana, on giving, they speak about skillful giving, to participate in giving in a way that maximizes the possibility of the giving. Giving at the right time, looking over there to that being that you are offering, whatever gift that you're offering to them. Being mindful, being attentive, in a sense, being responsible, being responsive to their state of consciousness, where they are. And then skillfully offering to them what is needed, what is appropriate for them. If what they need is a coat, if they need a meal, offering them the teachings on Dhamma might not be the most important thing. My teacher, Swami Shivananda, often spoke to this, saying that all this talk of spirituality, of these realizations, is a waste of time if somebody's got an empty stomach. So it's really important for all of us to be skillful in our giving, to be infinitely responsive to the need. And here's one way that has helped me, that has informed that for me. It was an occasion of my own very unskillful giving. There was a time in my life where I had a notion of the importance and the importance of communicating fully. That was important in relationship, in our relationships with one another. and so being very, full of this and very clear for myself about how important it is to communicate fully, I proceeded to go to my parents and tell them all sorts of things that I thought it was really important that they should know. And which then led to no end of suffering for them. And so in a way that was me giving, I had this highfalutin idea of giving and how important that was. And it was really more about me, and in some ways trying to assuage some guilt or whatever, without over analyzing it. The point is that I was in the guise of doing something to be for them. It was really all about me. So unskillful. So it's really helpful for us to look very, very carefully at our motive in our giving. Is this giving? Is this what I'm offering to my sister and my brother? Is this skillful? Is this about me? Or am I looking over there to see how I can really be of service? oftentimes I've come to appreciate that the best thing I can give is silence, is listening. Jayanti, do we have any questions? No? I just saw you popping up there. I wanted to check. Thank you. So this ever unfolding in our offering ourselves in service, in love. In giving, in receiving. There's an aspect of this receiving I'd like to spend a few minutes on. If we look at our lives, we are the recipients of many, many things on different levels of life. Genetically, we've received a lot. Generationally, we certainly are impacted upon by the life experiences of our parents, our siblings, their parents, their parents, their parents, going back beyond time, generation upon generation upon generation. Oftentimes, trauma, suffering is passed on generation to generation to generation. How it is that we receive all that we've received. So we may be coming to this at a time in our lives when we've already been impacted upon, impinged upon. We've all already received much. We have all received much. Even all that we have received in this moment, up to this time, in this moment, how we are with all that has been passed on to us has everything to do with how we move forward. Looking at it from the point of view of causality, of cause and effect, of karma. So we see the play of karma, of causality. This causes this, 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 and on and on. Not just linearly, but interconnectedly. Everything is influencing, impacting upon, touching everything. So you could say that causally, it is quite natural for there to be, in some ways, well, let's just call it a trajectory, that the likelihood is, given all this and this and this and all of that, the wholeness of all of that, the likelihood is that we are heading in this direction and we're likely to get to that destination. So love has the ability to transmute all of that to transform all of those causes and conditions and to actually change that trajectory, alter the trajectory. When we fully receive the gift of love that has been offered to us by countless, innumerable beings, bodhisattvas. They're the same, it's the same quality, whatever we call it, whether we call it a bodhisattva, a saint, whatever. Doesn't matter, does it? That vibration of absolute love, of selflessness, of giving, which it occurs to me is really what we in our heart of hearts all would love to contact, would love to rest in, would love to live in, would love to live from, to express, to share our love. So we can fully receive that has been offered by countless beings, by life itself. You know, part of this journey is coming to an appreciative understanding that maybe reality is not what we thought it was. And certainly these teachers offer us insight into another way of perceiving. They're offering us an expanded capacity to receive. So this bodhisattva ideal, maybe it's a matter of, rather than superimposing on my already existing consciousness this notion of giving up myself, which when legislated is struggle and effort. It's limited. It can't be anything other than limited, because so long as it's occurring in that way, and it's forced, it's not natural. Now, there is something to be said for taking on or taking up when we're not feeling kind and generous and selfless, that we take that up for ourselves. But most importantly, that's almost okay, we're going to do this interimly in the meantime while the teachings are transforming us from within. And maybe it's a matter of receiving the fullness of the love that's been offered to us. Granted, there have been, it's safe to say, plenty of beings in our lives who haven't had the wherewithal, the capacity, the ability to share that kind of love with us out of their own suffering, their own misunderstanding. So it's in our receiving, opening our hearts, even when it is our instinct, our survival instinct to close down, cut ourselves off from those beings who don't have our best interest at heart, who are not bodhisattvas looking to support us or offer us their life, their love. So that vibration is within us, and it is the eternal offering of life is for us to discover that, awaken to that vibration, opening, receiving the gift of love. And then having that love move through us and heal absolutely every remnant of the past, every memory, every samskara, every scar from the past. So to transform all of that which we could call the mud of life, the suffering of life, and to transform that such that we can be a lotus flower, a flower, and offer that to others. See, this is the gift of life that is forever. So the receiving, how we receive informs and shapes what is even possible for us to give. It has the possibility of transforming the very place from which we give. Not contrived, not caused, not conditioned, not created, but naturally existing within all of us. So the bodhisattva vow is about dedicating oneself to always offering that transformation to others. We can offer it, we do offer it, we will offer it. To some degree, we can help another to do it for themselves. Ultimately, each of us must do this for ourselves. And I tell you, really, we wouldn't want it any other way, because then it would be something that would be existing outside of us, that we would be dependent on another to receive, to awaken to. Jayanti, a question?
Well, we're just getting close to your instructions for next week.
Thank you very much. Jayanti, can you tell me what time is it?
8:47.
Thank you. So my invitation for all of us during the next week is a practice in receiving. And the way I frame it within myself as an ongoing practice is to receive with nothing added, and to be very, very mindful of that urge. It's a perfectly, it can be, it's a beautiful urge to share, and I'm not saying don't share. Just to be very, very mindful of that urge to add something. And let me just encourage, let's during this week, just go with just the spirit, the vibration, the consciousness of just receiving one another just as it is. Now, we may have a job where responding, receiving just as it is isn't going to work in a work meeting, right? So there's a time and a place. Though I will say, even when there is a response, please explore what is possible in that realm of actually responding. Just the nature of the response and receiving with nothing added. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. And so now I think we maybe have about 10 minutes. There's a meditation you may have seen in particularly in Tibetan Buddhist, Mahayana Buddhist artwork. You may see images of a Buddha, and then so there may be a central Buddha figure image, and then all around there are many other Buddha images. Our human tendency or human inclination to focus on the personality and to see separateness and difference and differentiation has us focusing on the personality of the Buddha rather than a Buddha. That Buddha nature that is within each and every one of us. I invite us all in this meditation to touch, to open ourselves to receive. So oftentimes when you see a Buddha in meditation, there will be an image of a seated Buddha at the spiritual eye. And so if you use your imagination, that seated Buddha, which is seen at the spiritual eye, also has a seated Buddha at the spiritual eye. And so I would like us all to bring our awareness to the spiritual eye. I think Jayanti let us go 5 minutes past 9. If anybody needs to leave right at 9, please do.
Okay.
So if we think of it in time, we may think of it as past Buddhas. So there's each successive Buddha that is expressed and now manifest in this time as each of us. And then moving forward in time into the future. So please, sitting comfortably in a meditative posture, bringing our awareness to the spiritual eye. Visualizing there a seated Buddha. Connecting with that Buddha that existed in time and space and is present here as each of us. And that seated Buddha is aware of and the recipient of the Buddha that he or she has at the spiritual eye. And on and on and on into an infinite past and into an infinite future. And at the completion of our meditation, 5 after 9, Jayanti will sound the chime once, and that will indicate the completion of our time together tonight. Thank you. for your life be fulfilled. May all of your fondest hopes and dreams for your life be fulfilled. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Good night.